Daniel Doiron from TameFlow. Welcome back.
It's a pleasure to be back.
How are things in Montreal today?
Things are good. All things considered, with the COVID and everything, we're doing our best.
Yeah.
But all is good.
I'm in Geneva today and really enjoying it, just next to the Botanical Gardens by the United Nations. Lovely. Really enjoying the air near Mont Blanc, tallest mountain in Europe. So really lovely. Delighted to be here. Yeah.
Not having cold soup, I assume?
No, they haven't convinced me to do that yet. People are trying to convince me to eat fondue.
I know.
And stuff.
I heard one of your interview, and that's why I mentioned it. Just kidding.
So thank you so much. I have a website, kanbanguides.org, with Danny Vicanti, where we published the Kanban guide in the last couple of weeks. And in one of the addendums, the first addendum, implementation details, we have explicitly called out some TameFlow practices and concepts, one of which is the Flow Efficiency Board.
Yes.
And for me, the dummies guide version for me, and you tell me because I'm the dummy here, but my understanding, you have a workflow. You've got a Kanban board basically, and on display, as Nigel Thurlow said a couple of weeks ago, and you got work items going through the system, and you've got a number of active steps, if you like, and within each step or stage, whatever you want to call it, you might have a column. And you might have sub-columns for basically doing the work and the work is done kind of thing. And the idea is that you're visualizing when work is waiting for the next people working on the next stage to pull that in.
Okay.
That's my understanding at the moment, because it's very difficult otherwise to measure wait time. We could be kind of doing time recording, but we're kind of going on the command and control way if we kind of start doing that. So very curious, Daniel, to hear about flow efficiency boards.
Yeah. So basically, we'll go through the official course material, at least part of it today.
Yeah.
This is basically where the TameFlow curriculum starts, and it's already like a high step from other class material from other providers of training. And the ultimate goal of the TameFlow Kanban Efficiency Board, Flow Efficiency Board, is to really get people emotionally engaged between the two components of flow efficiency, which is wait time and touch time. Okay, so this is the ultimate goal. And getting there, we'll talk about cost accounting, wait time, touch time, what it is, what you can do, why improvement models are wrong everywhere, and also basically how to convert from a traditional Kanban board to a flow efficiency Kanban board. So it'll be quite interesting. It starts at a very high level of knowledge, and the pace is pretty high, as it is in all our TameFlow material, pretty fast, I mean. And if I can share my screen now, is it
Sure.
good?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, yeah, off you go.
Can everybody see this?
Yeah.
Okay. So this is, of course, we have four classes so far with TameFlow. We have the mastering flow, mastering throughput, which is never addressed by any Kanban material anywhere else. Then we have throughput accounting, which is also something that is totally ignored in the agile landscape. And we have a one-day class on all the TameFlow Kanban boards, where you can see the flow efficiency board, the drum buffer role board, the throughput management board, and the portfolio management board. Today, we'll see the mental models that we have, the flaws of those mental models, and how they impact negatively flow efficiency and how we can get out of this mess. So I'm Daniel Doiron. Well, basically, maybe I should update my my stuff here. I'm 40 years.
Wow.
You know, like and still kicking. So basically, I was in IT. I'm still in IT, and I did a lot of studies. Actually, I think too much studying. So I'm a CPA as well. And by the way, John, if ever you're interested in having a throughput accounting live stream show, I can do some good content.
Be delighted to have you back for that. That's a really interesting topic.
Yeah, it is. It is.
Yeah, thank you.
Now we see a bottleneck here, and or a constraint, and basically it's right in the middle. So when you see a traffic jam and you want to fix it, well, it's pretty easy. You have to go where the capacity is at 4, and by fixing the problem there, the throughput will hopefully increase, because the throughput is dictated by the lowest capacity of the system. If I were to give you $1 million to fix this problem here, and you would put it on the far right or on the far left, you would basically lose $1 million. You have to put that $1 million for improvement right at the constraint where the capacity is for. Other than that, you're just losing money. And this is what we do. Why? Because knowledge work is invisible. You know, who's starving, who's stuck, who isn't overburdened, and most importantly, where is the constraint? And so far, TameFlow has the recipe to find the 3 types of constraint: the constraint in the workflow, and the work process, and the work execution. But this is not something that we're going to look at today, because no matter how good you can be at finding the constraint and managing it, if you don't have good flow efficiency, you're shooting blanks in the dark. Okay. So 10-Year Workflow is a book that Steve Tendon and myself spent the last year and a half writing. And finally, it got out in February of 2020. And it's a book that marks history. And we have forwards and testimonials from experts, really well-known experts in agile, Kanban, throughput accounting, theory of constraint, discipline, agile, flex, and a lot of other disciplines. You can find the testimonials there. And if you want a low price, of course, we have a special discount today that probably John is going to display later on. So you may want to hold on. Yeah, you may want to hold on for that bookmark with a low price, because we have a better deal for you. Now, you might think that TameFlow is the new kid around the block and just being opportunistic at integrating the theory of constraint and throughput accounting and all that jazz into Kanban, but it's not so. We've been, Steve Tendon has had a lot of thought leadership written down since 2011. And 2014, the hyper-productive book was really setting TameFlow apart from the competition. And then Steve was called on the blockchain and cryptocurrency and helping governments getting into the blockchain and cryptocurrency, the government of Malta and the Marshall Islands, just to be specific. And he basically let TameFlow on the back burner. But since the last 2 years, Steve is back, and Steve mainly with his ideas and everything, and myself, I helped writing the latest book in 2020, Tame-Your Workflow. It is really a fantastic book. And 2 new books will come sometime in the future. The TameFlow Games Simulations. We like to think that we can add the words of simulation and games with focusing on throughput. And the TameFlow Pattern, a book that has started a while ago, but is quite not finished. So what is TameFlow? Well, TameFlow is inspired from Kanban pattern theory and the theory of constraint. Of course, not neglecting throughput accounting. It's not an alternative to the Kanban method. It is a variation of the Kanban visual management method. And it is, in fact, an evolution of the 6 core practice. We are practice driven. And practice number 6, well, we all know what it is: improve collaboratively, evolve experimentally, using models and the scientific method. What we are not, we do not have reference processes or practices like Lean or XP. We have no reference roles, artifacts, or ceremonies like Scrum. We've got no principles and values like Agile and the Kanban method. We have no maturity levels like CMMI and KMM, and we have no reference framework that must be adopted and adapted to any given situation like Scrum, Nexus, Safe, Less, or Scrum at Scale. Today, we're looking at flow efficiency, and of course, there's a lot of metrics in Kanban and TameFlow, but today we're only going to do flow efficiency because if you don't get that right, and most of us don't, you get nowhere. If you don't get good flow efficiency, don't bother finding the constraint and trying to do the 5 focusing steps. You're just wasting your time. So flow efficiency is work time divided by the work time plus the wait time, multiplied by 100. Everybody knows that, I gather, at this point. Work time and touch time is the same thing. Okay, so sometimes they may be used interchangeably, but don't get confused. Work time and touch time is the same. So let's say we have Mike here. He's cutting a piece of wood, and uninterrupted, he can cut it in 4 minutes. And when he does so, he is at 100% flow efficiency. However, sometimes he likes to smoke a cigarette. And instead of the 4 minutes that it takes, usually it now takes 5 because it takes a minute to smoke the cigarette. So, whoa, his flow efficiency, I'm sorry, is 80%. Yeah, sorry about that. Then he goes to on TameFlow, on Facebook. Let's see. And maybe I'll change the logo there to put TameFlow. Sorry about that. And he takes a 5-minute social break on Facebook, and his flow efficiency now stands at 4 divided by 9 at 44%. Of course, Mike's hungry once in a while, every day as a matter of fact, and no matter where he's at cutting a piece of wood, when the signals is heard that he's got to go eat his lunch, he stops. And when he comes back at work, it would have basically taken him 64 minutes, yes, to cut his piece of work for a flow efficiency of 6.25%. Pretty easy concept to understand, okay? Now, how do we measure this? How do we implement this visually? Is something that we'll show you. Touch time, it's always a good time. You know, when you work on something, when you basically touch the work, it's a perfect time. This is when you make progress. And of course, the bad times at work is idle time, feedback delay, induced work, block time, and of course, wait time. So we see a stream, a value stream here. And wait time and touch time are always intertwined. Okay, you get into a wait time state, and then you get into a work or touch time state. And this doesn't change. This is how you calculate flow efficiency. And here we have a flow efficiency Kanban board. And you see that every step of the value stream has a waiting for and in process column. So we make wait time and touch time explicit, okay? Of course, there is always a sizable amount of wait time that is in touch time, where, you know, it's inevitable, but we do make wait time explicit, where wait time is purely and solely accumulated for that purpose. And also touch time is sort of explicit. And what benefit does that have? for the knowledge worker is that when he's in development, UAT, or demo, he's psychologically engaged to manage the wait time and the touch time. And he understands that the more his work is in wait time, the more he wants it to go into touch time. But the people in touch time are going to say, hey, if you put too much of your work in my touch time, I'm going to have a lot of wait time in my touch time, and you get better hold on. So there is this arbitrage and this friction, this tension that exists for everybody, whether they're in development, UAT, demo, or merge on master, waiting for and process, waiting for and process. And we have many clients that have adopted these sports, and they feel so much relieved, such a relief psychologically, and working together and cooperation and visualization of the work. TameFlow, of course, has put a dictionary of all the times. You know, there's queue times, acceptance time, response time. And of course, flow time here, if you see my cursor, is basically where we work, okay? When the work is given to our teams and where we actually go and get the work. And then flow time, which is called time and process, process time, system lead time. And then Kanban, it's called lead time. And I think everybody has a different definition. But we're going to talk about flow time. When it is that we get onto our Kanban board and actually get the work. And we, of course, are always struggling between touch time and wait time, okay, while we are in flow time. Flow efficiency and resource efficiency are at the opposite end of the spectrum. Flow efficiency is, you know, akin to throughput accounting, idle time, and low WIP. And resource efficiency is linked to cost accounting, wait time, and high WIP. We're going to get into more details as to why we mean exactly by this. It's an early introduction. But you will see that cost accounting and throughput accounting create our mindsets, and that with throughput accounting, you think differently in terms of flow efficiency.
Daniel, can I ask you a question about that? Could you just step back 1 second?
Yes.
I think I saw you writing somewhere, I don't know where I saw it, about in cost accounting, it's like we're paying for the people twice. Was it you who said that, or was that somebody else?
Oh, I may have said that, and with regard to capacity.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
that is a concept of cost accounting and throughput accounting. Basically, okay, just to take a side step, is that in cost and throughput accounting, you're only worried about the capacity that you buy, okay? And cost accounting, they're worried about the capacity that you use. And depending on your use, if you don't meet certain thresholds of profitability, they will not allow you to use the capacity that you already paid for, which is total nonsense. And this is why cost accounting is totally off the chart in terms of knowing what capacity is. And they double count, you know, because they do register the stuff when you buy it, and they want to cost it when you use it. And if you don't meet certain margin requirements, your products are just going to go down the drain and be discarded when they actually bring in money. And basically, the end of the story is when you have capacity, it's there, it's paid for, use it, no matter what cost accounting tells you. But we can get into that, you know, maybe in another time, because there are a lot of.
Thank you.
Yeah, so basically, cost accounting makes you pay twice for the resources that you buy and you use. And throughput accounting says, hey, you paid for it, just use it, man. Okay, so it's a bit of, but there's more to it. There's more to that story. There's also, but it's a good point. Yeah, I did say that sometime. But
okay,
I don't know what.
I'll ask you
are you miking my home? You have cameras and spies in here. Okay. I hope this answered a bit of your question.
Thank you.
Yeah. Flawed mental models, okay, and flow efficiency. Well, we've got wait time, touch time, and how do we improve? Now, getting more stuff done, okay, with flow efficiency. We are going now to look at CFDs, okay? For the next 20 slides, we're going to have CFDs. The x-axis is time and the y-axis is customer service or product delivered. And we have a slope here, which is the rate of delivery, okay? And this is how much we deliver as time passes, okay? And stuff is done at a certain rate, okay? That's pretty easy to understand. And of course, if someone wants you to deliver more, to get more stuff done, the low-hanging fruit in our mind is, hey, we're just going to buy more capacity to increase our performance. We're going to hire people. We're going to go into a improvement initiative and buy stuff, staffing, restructuring, organization with a high risk of failure and a high price tag. But how else are you going to improve your performance but increasing your rate of delivery? This is one of the mental models that we've always had. And this is what improvement models, basically suggest to you to increase your rate of delivery, to buy money, buy assets, change the way that you work. Most of the agile approaches act this way as well. But there is also the rate of demand, which comes into the equation with your delivery rate. Because, of course, when you improve delivery and your capacity, you want to meet demand, but you don't want to over-exceed it and end up with overcapacity, which is, a sin in and of itself. But when the delivery line and the demand line are diverging, as it is always the case, the horizontal difference between the demand line and the delivery line is basically the time that it takes to get the work done. And as time goes on, the vertical line is increased workload in the system. Okay, so this difference between the demand and the delivery line is something that you really want to diminish, okay? And the first reflex, of course, is to increase capacity. But as demand flies away from the delivery line, the amount of work in progress gets higher and higher, and the system becomes less and less stable. On the other hand, the more stuff you have in the system, the more time it takes to get things done, and the less predictable you become. It takes longer and longer. So this difference here between the slope of the demand and the slope of the delivery line is key. We've got to try to make these two lines parallel so that no matter what the rate of demand or the rate of delivery, we make the two lines parallel so that we can have stable WIP in the system and stable delivery times. We stabilize the system, we become more predictable as well. But our first reflex is, of course, to increase the rate of delivery, which is going to cost us an arm and a leg, change management, new organization, new tools, new everything. It's going to take a long while. And if you've done any of these improvement models, you know how much you're going to spend to get maybe 1 or 2% improvement.
I have a comment, Daniel, if that's okay.
Yeah.
Patrick, apologies for the delay in bringing it up. Patrick Stewart. So he's saying we actually want our cake and eat it too. We want high flow efficiency and high resource efficiency. We can have both.
Yes.
It's kind of reflecting Henrik Nieberg's resource utilization trap video, isn't it? He strikes the balance, doesn't he? He said it's not we want flow, but we can also then, once we got flow optimized, we can then tweak up the resource utilization. It's kind of striking a balance, isn't it?
Yeah. But this is we're dealing with flow efficiency and baby steps. Okay, Patrick is right. Patrick is absolutely right.
Yeah.
But when we go into throughput mode, okay, which is the advanced courses, when we know where the constraint is, and when we know how to exploit the constraint in the workflow and the work process and work execution, then all barrels go crazy and you get both. Okay.
Yeah.
But on a much higher scale than any other Kanban that you could find. But you know, the beginning, and when we teach all of this resource efficiency and flow efficiency, they all know. So this is the beginning. But absolutely, Patrick is 100% right. But before you can get to the constraints and get to that level, you have got to have good flow efficiency. If you don't have good flow efficiency, don't even bother looking at the constraint. Okay, it's a prerequisite. Okay, but he's right.
Yeah, just one other thing as well. There's probably one situation, probably not only one, but a key situation where you wouldn't want the arrival rate and delivery rate being the same is where the system is already overburdened. You want to basically bleed it down. You basically,
we're getting there. Okay.
Yeah. Sorry. Okay.
No
worries. Yeah, got it. Patrick, thank you for the comments. Thank you.
Yeah. But Patrick is absolutely right. Yes, I have nothing more to say than he's absolutely right, and we do get there, but not today, you know. But we'll get a teaser maybe for another live stream.
Thank you. Yeah.
So we see here that by having the demand line and the rate of delivery line parallel, we get into predictability and stability. The amount of work in the system will be same, and the time that it takes to deliver will also be relatively the same. And a stable and predictable system has a better chance of being around next year. Okay, we can agree to that. But there is another alternative. Why, if increasing capacity is costly and takes a lot of time, why don't we take instead shaping demand, take the rate of demand down, and make it parallel to the delivery rate? We would get then the same geometry that we have here, but we'll come to that in just a little second. But shaping demand is not within our span of control. Within our span of control, that which we have control over, we're just going to go for increasing capacity. You know, like that's my business, and I'm going to increase capacity to meet demand. It costs a lot of money. It takes a lot of time. However, in the sphere of influence, the things that I can influence, I can help my customer to shape demand. Okay, to basically match the demand curve to the capacity curve. And if I have a stable and predictable system, hey, maybe I'll be able to deliver more. But we'll get to that. We'll see if that's true. Yeah, basically, the rate of delivery is between your span of control, increasing capacity, and shaping demand is within our sphere of influence, which we can do, okay? We can have an impact. And the unintended consequences of good intention is that we think that to best serve customers, we have to tell them that we are serving them right away, and that the sooner you start, the sooner you finish. And like Patrick says, we have this excess demand coming in, and we're going to leave that demand outside the system. It's really hard to fight psychologically, and he's absolutely right on that as well. But we're used to waiting in line. We have Disneyland, McDonald's, or wherever we go. They make us wait in line. So it's not something that we're not used to, but that we seem to be unable to do at the workplace. So what about postponing commitment and limiting work and process? Now, what if I were to tell you that we can shape demand, have a new line of new rate start of work, and that I would tell you that you could deliver at the same time. You will tell that to your customer, and he will say, yeah, but what's in it for me? Well, basically, you can tell that the customer that he would end up having a stable and predictable system, and it will build trust because he will always have constant delivery of his work item. But that's still a pretty bold proposition to make because we're postponing commitment. So we're saying, before we started work here, but now you have a new rate of starting work and we're going to start work here. Okay, everybody sees my cursor, I hope. And the flow time is going to go here and the delivery date is going to stay the same. Okay, so you're telling me that you're going to start later and you're going to finish at the same date. So what's the deal? How does this work? Well, it's pretty simple. Because with the new rate of demand and the new rate of delivery, the blue shaded area will actually be the effort that's going to be required for the team to deliver the work, right? As opposed to all of this yellow shaded area that you were working before on top and above of the blue shaded area to deliver the same work. Why? Yeah. Well, you were multitasking, you were wasting efforts, and you were overburdening. There was a lot of wait time in the system. By postponing the work and starting later, all of this yellow area is basically extra capacity that you are getting yourself for free. Now, that's a lot of extra and free capacity, right? And we all know what we can do with extra capacity. We can actually have a better quality of life at work, and we can work on things that are meaningful and also sustain a pace that is more in line with the quality of life that we all aim for.
I think the quality of the product would be better as well, or the service, wouldn't it? Because you're more focused on what you're doing.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay. But this shows here all of the extra capacity that you can reclaim and wasted efforts. Okay. And it is a very powerful message to send. Note that the shaded yellow area is not the backlog. Okay. The backlog is still outside the system. And the yellow area is also wait time nirvana. This is where wait time loves to be, when there's a lot of work, there's a lot of WIP, there's a lot of context switching. This is where the bad stuff goes and strive. So what is the benefits of low WIPs? Well, low WIP reduces or even eliminates multitasking, and it frees up the capacity that is usually lost in multitasking and wait time. Now it's time to, after all this exercise, to show some money, the business value of flow efficiency. We have here what we consider flow time, which is divided equally with touch time and wait time. Okay, there is always a lot more wait time than there is touch time and knowledge work. Okay, it's unavoidable. There's no doubt about that. Typically, flow efficiencies of 3-7% are common. So it means that 95% or more of flow time is basically wait time.
Yeah.
So with my delivery line and my new start of work, I got a flow time here, right? You see my flow time, it's there.
Yeah.
And it's made of a little bit of touch time and a lot of wait time. Okay. So that's a bit of a problem. So what can we do to really get better. As we know, touch time is the time that I actually work on my stuff, and the wait time is time that I spent waiting for stuff, because that's the nature of knowledge work. And they're both intrinsic part of what we call flow time. So I have a choice here, my friend. I can reduce the touch time in a business initiative to improve flow efficiency, which is 5% of total time, or I can reduce wait time, deliver sooner, or work faster by either reducing touch time or reducing wait time.
I'm having a double take, which means there's something that's kind of jamming in my brain, my slow brain today. So you said reducing touch time.
Okay.
So
you see this? Do you agree that knowledge work, there's a lot of wait time versus touch time?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. So now, what am I going to do to improve flow efficiency, the flow time? I got to cut either wait time or touch time. It's one or the other, right? Yes.
I hear what you're saying. Yeah.
Okay. So give me a little more time, okay? Because this is a tricky part, okay?
Yeah.
Okay. Yep. So now I'm giving you two alternatives, okay? I'm telling you, you want to increase flow time. I'm telling you, you want to reduce touch time, or you want to reduce wait time. Actually, this thing should be here and this thing should be here. That's what creates the confusion. Okay, I'll fix it after the class. Okay, my mistake. Mistake. No, really bad thing of mine. It fucks up everything. Okay, so
okay.
Yeah.
I think I prefer to reduce wait time, though. I mean, isn't that what we all?
Yeah, but look at the trick here. This is the trick coming. Okay, this is the trick. Okay, so you got a choice. You either reduce touch time or you reduce wait time. Okay, you agree with me? In order to reduce. Okay, so you either work faster by improving touch time. I'm going to show you how to work, or you deliver sooner. You reduce wait time, and you basically don't change the way you work. Okay. So let's see what happens. So we've got our new start of work that happened before to be parallel with the old rate of delivery. And now we have this old line there of wait time, touch time, wait time, touch time. And we are going to improve flow time by shrinking wait time. Okay. So the new line here has to be made parallel to the new start of work. So we have a new rate of delivery. And this new rate of delivery allows us to deliver earlier, at the same time increasing the amount of work delivered.
Yeah.
Okay. What is the point of all this? Well, let's see what happens. I give you two scenarios to improve flow efficiency by 20%. I'm saying, John, you're going to go on scenario 1, touch time. You're going to reduce touch time by 20%. And we're going to say that Bob has got to go on scenario 2 and improve wait time. Okay, cut wait time by 20%.
Yeah.
So you increase capacity, okay, and you reduce on the left, and you reduce touch time by 20%. Touch time is 5% of total time. So total time is reduced then by 1%. Total time becomes 99% of the original 100%. And basically, you get an impact on throughput of 1%. You are going to spend a lot of money. You are going to spend a lot of time. And we're going to show you how to work, is the message I'm giving you. Or on the other hand, you can reduce wait time by 20%. Wait time is 95% of total time. So total time will be reduced by 19%. Total time becomes 81% of the original time. And throughput is in, increased by 23%. Okay, so I got an improvement in lead time, flow time of 19% and throughput of 23%. And here I got an improvement of flow time of 1% and an improvement on throughput of 1%. By reducing wait time, it cost me no money and no changes in the way that I work and nor on the operating expenses. So you got a choice, to increase capacity with investment, staffing, assets, restructuring, reorganization, and so on, or no investment, no staffing, no nothing, just a new mindset and new way of making management decisions by postponing commitment and reducing wait times. So really, resistance is futile when you understand this. You got to go for wait time. You got to kill that wait time.
Yeah, that's what Untitled was saying.
Yeah. But we're not done. There's a punchline. There's a punchline. There's a punchline. Basically, the improvement seems to come for free, but there's no change. But yeah, there's new mental models to be adopted. Determining when you start and stop work, resisting the temptation to decide when and where we make improvement, because you have no clue as to where the constraint is. Don't try to be smart at this point. And reconsidering also how we view idle time or excess capacity and make decisions accordingly. And again, please resist the temptation to be smart and to decide when and where you invest money to improve your touch time. Your touch time is only 5% of your flow efficiency. If you've got money to spare, do it. But you're going to spend a lot of money and a lot of time to improve only 5% of your flow efficiency. It's not smart.
I have a comment.
Yeah.
I have a comment from Aaron Ray. I hope I pronounced your name properly, Aaron.
Yeah.
He says flow is really based on network queuing theory. That's kind of like Don Reinertson says as well. How do you feel about Aaron's comment there?
Repeat. Say again.
Flow is really based on network queuing theory.
Yes, but I'm not. Can we come back to this later because it's going to kill my flow?
We don't mind.
Okay. Because there are interesting things that Donald Reinertson says.
Yeah.
And they're interesting, but the theory of constraint and Donald Reinertson's work sometimes collide. There's a shock, so it's a challenge. Yeah. So I'll get to this a bit later if you don't mind, because basically Donald Reinertson, I mean, he's smart, okay, and he's brilliant. And he basically said of Donald, the Eli Goldrath's work, the theory of constraint. Man, haven't you heard about queuing theory? Just put 2 or more or 5 queues, and there you go. Well, you can put 500, 600, 700 queues. The constraint is still going to be there. You haven't changed anything. There's always going to be a constraint. Now, Donald is extremely smart, and so was Dr. Goldrath. But you see, great minds sometimes come into shocks,
Yeah,
and I'll go on, okay? Because queuing theory is really nice,
Yeah.
But don't forget that agility and serial non-parallel flows are also important in knowledge work, okay? Because when you go into parallel flow and queuing, you can get into multitasking, but not always. Anyway, I'm keeping going on. Okay. Now, good question, but you caught me a bit by surprise. I hope my answer was sort of okay. Now, what's the big deal compared to the others? Demings, Plan Do Chetak, OKR, 5Y, CMMI, Colonel Boyd, whatever, Lean Six Sigma, Schuhart. Do they focus on touch time or wait time? No, they're going to show you how to work, right? This is what they do. They go immediately and impact touch time instead of first killing the wait time. And this is why all of these things become basically pharaonic projects that cost you a lot of money with little benefits, okay? And also, all the agile approaches, what do? They want you to focus on touch time or wait time. It's touch time. They're going to show you how to work. There's new roles, new responsibilities. Oh, yeah, but I've been doing this for 20 years. That doesn't matter, man. You need a product owner, scrum master. You need a release plan, train engineers, and you need this, and this is how we work. But touch time is the last thing you want to do. Touch time is to be dealt with once you've gotten rid of all the wait time. And this is what people don't understand, is that you can make a lot of money just reducing wait time and just not changing anything as to how you do things. And touch time is basically saying, how do you do things? We're going to change it. But how do you do things and we're going to change it only matters at the constraint. It doesn't matter anywhere else. And these guys go on touch time everywhere, all the time. And what they do is that they increase the overhead cost, layers, overhead, layers, and basically you sink. Because you've got to maintain these improvements that don't impact the constraint. Operationally, you've got to maintain them every month. So you're sinking and you're sinking and you're sinking. Not smart. And of course, when you come to people and you say, we're going to change your touch time, the way you work around here, well, you got survival anxiety from the workers, and you got learning anxiety. Survival anxieties, are they going to keep me with all this new jazz? And learning anxieties, oh boy, I've been here 25 years now, I got to learn how to do my work from people who have no expertise in my field of work. So it creates this anxiety, creates a passive aggressive resistance, stuff like that. You'll never see when a knowledge worker puts the brakes on. I think one person once told me that as a programmer, he had come up with 25 ways not to get his work done. That's knowledge worker. When they resist, you can tell. When people resist on the floor, the manufacturing floor, you can tell because the inventory is spawning up. Now, where do we focus improvement efforts? This I'm going to skip.
I've got a couple of comments, Daniel. Can I just briefly
yeah.
them? So Jitesh, I know Jitesh. Hi, Jitesh.
Jitesh.
Yeah, it says postpone commitment and you get free capacity. Completely agree. And then Matthew's asking a question. So are we saying the key is postponing commitment for wait time to be advantageous? What's your response to that, Daniel?
Well, we're coming to yes, basically what you got to do, postponing commitment is key, and having a constraint capacity pull system like Kanban, it is what it is the best way to postpone commitment and reducing WIP, okay? There are, of course, much better way that we teach in TameFlow, like drum buffer rope scheduling, which is much more efficient. But it is, in essence, the key to reducing wait time, okay? But this you have to measure, right? Because if I ask you, what's your flow efficiency, and you tell me, oh, it's about 50%, I say, okay, do you measure it? I say, no. Well, sorry, man. If you don't measure your flow efficiency, it's probably around 5%. Okay, so it's nice to talk, but it's better to walk and show me the metrics. But we're getting there, okay? We got more stuff coming.
Just another comment from Aaron.
Yeah.
Says, Aaron Ray. So he said he liked your answer earlier, by the way, about the network flow. He's got another question. So can we pick OKRs with flow to build new optimization models? Aaron, I had a separate episode on that. So if you look at my channel, YouTube, John Coleman, Agility Chef, you'll see an episode with Steve Tendon where we spent about an hour and a half talking about OKRs and how that works well with TameFlow. So probably don't have time to answer that here. Hope you don't mind, Aaron. And one other question, sorry, to such our flow, forgive the pun, Daniel. From Wasim in XP, isn't having cross-functional teams actually reducing wait time? So having less dependencies.
Oh, XP is pretty neat, eh? By the way, I love XP, but yeah, I don't know how to answer that again. Can you repeat this question again?
Okay, so in XP, isn't having cross-functional teams actually reducing wait time? In other words, you don't have to, if you have a cross-functional team, the idea is you have all the skills in the team to do whatever needs to be done, so you don't need to wait on anybody else, which means you've got less wait time.
Yeah. But, restructuring and reorganizing and this and that, you can slice it and dice it any way that you want. I've been reorganized and restructured about 20 times in my life, but I always end up working with the same people. So this restructuring thing doesn't mean squat to me. And that's all I'm going to say about building teams and things like that. I don't believe in it.
Yeah, and one other thing I'd say to Wasim as well is the very first episode we did on TameFlow, we talked about Herbie, the Boy Scout. So when I'm doing work, I'm often asking, where's our Herbie right now? And so if your Herbie is people waiting on other people, you can look at that, of course. Often it's slow decision making or something else. And so by looking for wherever your constraint is, and putting your effort into kind of resolve that, that's really what we're going to get most of the improvement in the TameFlow logic anyway. Hope that answers your question.
Listen, if you try to beat yourself as to knowing what causes the constraint and this and that, you're going to have a lot of sleepless nights.
Yeah.
Okay. Constraints are absurd. Okay. They reveal themselves to you. Don't try to find the cause. Oh, well, that could be my constraint. No. Constraints are self-revealing. Okay, you got constraint in the workflow, constraint in the work process, and constraint in the work execution, and they are just there to be discovered. They are there, they exist, and in the TameFlow approach, we show you how to identify them, how to exploit them, how to subordinate to them, and how to elevate them.
Yeah, we got 2 whole episodes on that. 3 more comments. Sorry, Daniel. Rudiger. So it's difficult.
Rudiger.
Yeah. He helped me in a simulation a few months ago. Thank you, Rudiger. We're going to have a follow up to that.
Yeah.
He said it's difficult to have all the skills you need in a team. It is. It's very difficult. And Jersey's here as well. I wonder if among listeners there are executives or managers from upper levels, and if yes, what do you think about the presented approach and focus on reducing wait time and getting results? So we are very keen if there's any executive or senior manager on the live stream, if you could just pop a comment and let us know if what Daniel is saying is making sense. And Wasim says, thank you for the answer. So you can continue your flow now, Daniel. Sorry for interrupting you with the comments there.
Okay, no problem. Just write down these names so I can contact them later and
of course,
give them my just kidding. Okay. So now basically that you've got high flow efficiency and that you've done everything that you could with wait time, it's now time to focus on touch time, finding the constraint and change the way you work. Now it's okay. But this is something that we're not going to see today because we're going to see the flow efficiency Kanban boards, okay? I'm just telling you, don't try to outsmart yourself and work on touch time if you don't have flow efficiency, and then if you don't know where your constraints are, because no matter if you put AppCar, CMMI, or whatever, it's good. I'm not saying they're not good. You can take whatever approach you want, but if you don't focus on the constraint, man, you just don't have a clue. So takeaways: limit work and process and postpone commitment. We always know that. Reduce wait time for better and flow efficiency. And you know how, and you know the benefits of such a thing.
Yeah.
And then you've got to reduce touch time at the constraint, but that is not something we've gotten into. For that, you have got to know how to, TameFlow is the only approach that does it. There's no other approaches that does it to identify the constraint in the workflow, the work process, and the work executions. 3 different things, 3 things that you've got to understand. Okay, now we are going to go into the TameFlow Flow Efficiency Kanban boards. It is going to pull a few nerves, okay, for a few people, but it is what it is. And why don't we start, okay?
Let's just go for it, yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. So TameFlow has 4 boards that are unique, okay? The other 3 boards are basically throughput-oriented Kanban board, which no one has. But this TameFlow Flow Efficiency Kanban board is more in line with traditional Kanban boards. And we're going to see 4 topics while going through this is treating WIP as a liability or an asset, buffer and columns, then people and flow. Point 4 is complex workflows, and 5, we're going to do a board conversion. WIP as a liability. So a TameFlow Flow Efficiency Kanban board looks like this, okay? Like I said before, for each step of the value stream, you've got explicit wait time and explicit touch time. This engages workers emotionally to make the right decisions in their functional area between what is waiting and what is being touched, okay? If I wait too long, I'm going to put pressure on the touch guys, and the touch guys are going to say, hey, I got high WIP here, man. You're going to have to wait. And the time is accumulated properly. The time for wait time is really precise, okay? At least you got one of the 2 components of flow efficiency that is right on the button. Okay, so we've been through that. Wait time, okay. We've seen what flow time basically is. Again, it's made up of touch time and wait time. It's a bit redundant at this point. Just want to stress again for those who might think that touch time is touch time 100%. No, touch time, there's always a lot of wait time and touch time. But the lower the WIP and the lower the stuff and process, the more you're going to have touch time in proportion to the wait time when you are in an in-process state, okay? So you can manage it. The wait time is always wait time. It's pure wait time. It's 100% wait time, and it's a precise metric. We're going to see the agile decision filter by David Anderson. David Anderson is asking the question, are we making progress with imperfect information? I mean, favoring action over analysis. He then says that trust brings down transaction costs. He favors trust over bureaucratic control. And last, treat WIP as a liability, finishing over starting, okay? So we have a nice message here, is treat WIP as a liability.
Seems reasonable,
then, yeah. Then we've got the lean decision filter by Yeret. I don't know if I pronounce his name correctly, so I apologize. Value trumps flow. Okay, expedite at the expense of flow to maximize value. That's fine. Okay. Flow trumps waste elimination. Increase WIP if required to maintain flow, even though it may add waste. Increase WIP is linked to adding waste. Okay, in this sentence, it might be required, but increasing WIP adds waste. That's the message. And of course, eliminate waste to improve efficiency. Do not pursue economies of scales. Instead, match demand with capacity and all that jazz. So what do the agile and lean decision filter have in common? Well, basically, treat WIP as a liability. Okay, WIP is not good. In a cost accounting world, WIP is good, it's an asset. But in knowledge work, it's not. It's a liability. High WIP creates wait time. And the higher the WIP, the higher the wait time. We've seen this, like just 10 minutes ago, right? Wait time is wait time, but what do you and your organization think of wait time to be? Is it an asset or a liability? In the cost accounting world, wait time is an asset because it means high resource efficiency. We have a silo mentality. And high resource efficiency means that everybody, all the resources are working hard, and that's good. But in the throughput accounting world, wait time is less throughput. Inventory that is piling up increases operating expenses, and it is a burden. Why am I seeing this? Well, let's see a traditional Kanban board with the buffers and the columns.
Can I just interrupt you for a second, Daniel?
Yes, yes.
Got your co-author ready to come on camera. Would you like him to join?
Of course.
Tendon's here. Welcome, Steve. Welcome. How are you doing? Your audio is off, Steve. So just double check your audio. Oh, you're back. Yeah.
Hey there. Does this work?
All good.
Hi, John. Nice to see you again on this famous channel.
Thank you so much for joining.
Pleasure.
Yeah, John.
Yeah.
Like I said, take all the names of the people who interrupted me.
I'll call you later, Daniel.
That's what the whole idea of this live stream is all about. You get interrupted all the time.
Yeah. Okay. So hi, Steve. How are you doing?
Very good.
Okay. So now we get into the TameFlow, the traditional Kanban board with buffers and columns. So you see, a traditional Kanban boards, you got ready for UAT, you got ready for build, you got waiting for externals. These are all WIP parking spaces and places where wait time can basically go for a nice boost. Okay, wait time is not good, and increasing WIP is not good, but traditional Kanban boards have WIP buffers, okay, which is not something that is in line with reducing wait time. Buffers and Kanban, okay, they're there for, there's 5 types of buffers, the ghost columns. I'm not going to go into details, okay, but there's columns and parking spaces for releases, for done queues, for a CCR bottleneck, and NIA bottleneck as well. Okay, so those are pretty well known. I'm not going to dwell into those, but we don't need those in a flow efficiency Kanban concept. Okay, Kanban board concept. Okay, they are a distraction, and they are there to accumulate WIP, which creates more and more and more wait time. They're parking spaces. If you must manage wait time, there are easier ways, okay? Daniel Vacanti has aging signals. And within your process, you can see that items are in the red zone, and maybe they are or not having excessive wait time. But there's no decoration, there's no more artifact and beautifying the board and complicating the board excessively for that purpose. And I'll get into why with the people in flow. Let's say that I go to the hospital. Okay, there's registration, triage, the ER doctor, the X-ray, and the orthopedic surgeon. What do I do when I get into the hospital? Well, I wait for, I'm waiting to be treated. Then I'm in process, I'm being touched. Then they send me to triage.
Yeah.
Same thing. Then the ER doctor, then the X-ray, and then I'm out of there. But what is happening underneath with a Kanban, traditional Kanban board? I go to registration and they're doing me, and then I'm done. And what do? What's my signal to go to triage? Well, then I get there, I'm in a state of doing. It just doesn't match the human way that we interface with knowledge work and with processes, okay? Mm-hmm. So this is one flaw, okay, that you can find in the traditional Kanban boards. And flowbacks. Let's say that I'm on top of here with my X-ray, and I want to flow back. Okay, well, I can go back into the ER doctor in the waiting room, or in the triage in the waiting room, or whatever. It's pretty easy to do. But in a traditional Kanban board, where do I go? Where do I go? I'm an orthopedic, and I'm in the doing state. Where do I go? I go to the X-ray and the done stage. No, I'm not done, obviously, since I'm in orthopedics. And if I go to X-ray doing, is this where the problem is? And what are the tickets that are there? Are they going to be put somewhere else? Because I'm accumulating touch time now. And if I accumulate touch time with a whole bunch of other people, our flow efficiency is going to go down. But we can't track it on a traditional Kanban board. So flowbacks are easy with flow efficiency Kanban boards. And of course, we don't encourage flowback. We encourage people coming downstreams to fix the problem whenever a problem arises. And of course, in our fairness, so does the Kanban method. Okay. Now, complex workflows. Let's say here, I have a multi Kanban board with a complex workflow. All the boards are integrated.
Yeah.
And when I get to the last board there, where every other board is connected to, when I get to a TameFlow Flow Efficiency Kanban board, I get into the waiting room, waiting for. So, hey, come in, man, come in, there's no problem. I don't have to know where people are coming from. They just get into my waiting for state. But what happens if I have a traditional Kanban board? Well, they get into the doing stuff, but they're not doing, so they got to stay out.
It's like a push, isn't it?
Yeah, but the thing is, with the traditional Kanban board, the entry queues are not visible. Okay, that's the problem, and it's not an issue when you use flow efficiency Kanban board, because the entry point is always a waiting for column, while for a traditional Kanban board, it's a doing column. So you're not gonna enter there and be sitting and not being done, not in a state of doing. So it is a bit of a problem. And the board conversions. So we're gonna start with a mainstream Kanban board without buffers, because we got rid of them before. So this is a traditional Kanban board with the doing done, UAT doing done, and we have the merge on master, where we only have one column usually, because at the last step of a Kanban board, when you're done, you just kick it out of the system.
Yeah.
So that is a problem. So the first step that we have to do is that we have to split the last column and make the doing done explicit. Okay, it's just a step that is needed. Okay, what do we do after? Well, it's not that hard. We just rename all of the columns. The doing becomes waiting for, the done becomes in process, and so on and so forth, even for the last column that we've created here. And ready changes name, it becomes full kitting. Full kitting is a different definition than ready. Ready basically means that you're ready for the next step, but full kitting means that you're ready for the entire journey, and that you got a plan to get, in order to get a one-piece flow as possible, to get all the way to the end, to done. Okay.
I'd like Steve to comment on that, actually, because I made an erroneous judgment on full kitting, that it was about just lining up all your ducks, and Steve kind of set me straight a bit.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So Steve, in terms of your understanding of full kitting, how would you explain it? Is it just about lining up your ducks, or making sure that everything's in place before you start the work, so you don't have any waiting while it's in process, or is there a bit more to it than that?
So if you're looking at full kitting in this context, where you're seeing a board and that step is at the very beginning, and you might be accustomed with other concepts from Scrum or Kanban, definition of ready, you would certainly conclude that it is just like a synonym of that same definition of ready. In reality, it is not, because the big part of full kitting happens not at the individual team level, but at the portfolio board. And full kitting is, yes, preparing the work so that it can be done with the least amount of interruptions possible. So it is just like when the aircraft pilots do their pre-flight checklist.
Yes.
Do we have everything? Are the wings attached, and can we fly? And that sort of thing. But in particular, it is a much broader activity, because that is where the interaction between the engineering part and the business side actually happen. So where you have the discussions between all the stakeholders, the domain experts, subject matter experts, and the technical experts, when they decide, is this thing feasible? And in particular, from the like financial perspective, the financial throughput perspective, this is where the business has the duty to assign financial value to the work that is about to be approved. This is a huge difference from all other approaches where there is like a sensitivity towards value, but it's never quantified, and it's never like approached systematically. And this also addresses another huge factor, which is the unbalance that happens between the engineering organization and the business organization, because typically you will have business who are always there asking, how long will it take? When will it be done? Can you do it? And the engineering side has to commit. What we want to achieve with full kitting is that the business side does an effort to actually estimate and put a dollar value on the work that they are about to release. So the expectation of providing time forecast estimates on the engineering is compared and balanced with the value in terms of dollars that business thinks that this unit of work will have. And it's in that discussion, in that clash, in that friction between engineering and business that, number one, a lot of work can be avoided. It's the demand shaping part. Now, when business realizes that, no, it's really not worth it, let's not do it, that's a great achievement, because you're not starting to work on something that
could be cancelled later on, or not have any value,
or it's not valuable enough. And at the same time, in that friction, you will have so many perspectives coming in, and that's where you exercise like the collective intelligence. In Agile, we have this notion of swarming and mobbing. But seriously, do you ever see like the business side participating in swarms and mobs? No, they have other things to do, typically, at least in their mind, more important things to do. So this is a way to recreate that dynamic of different minds exchanging ideas to create value, but in a different context. It's not the engineering context, it's the broader social technical system that produces engineering artifacts. So it's a huge topic. So don't be like misguided by this one single column that we choose to call full kitting, because it is part of that larger process.
Yeah, I can totally relate to that, Steve. Thank you. There's a few comments on the channel, so I'll just Arpad. I know Arpad very well. He's a really good practitioner, and he had the same kind of view that I had at the start when I looked at the flow efficiency board, because it looked like you were going from a pull system to a push system. But as Steve straightened out with me, was basically you still have psychological flow. What we label the columns doesn't make any difference, as long as the whole idea is that we're bringing work in when we've got the capacity to bring it in. So Arpad, I hope you're okay with that. And I noticed
John, sorry, John, to pop in here. To answer that question, one would have to define what is this push and what is this pull. And the essence of pull is that the worker, the workstation, the resource, call it what you want, but the entity or subject that is performing the work is actually asking for more work. So it's like the baby that starts crying and wants food. That is a pull system. The push system is the opposite. It's how you make foie gras. You stuff the bird until it explodes. So no, really, it's very visual. A baby asking for food and the exploding bird, right? So in this situation, what is the equivalent of the baby's cry, the cry for food, the signaling that, hey, I'm hungry, I need something to eat or to do in this case?
Yeah.
In a Kanban board, it's the work going under the WIP limit, where you have an empty slot, and that signal like trickles up to the eventually to the very beginning of the board, and you have the release of new work. In TameFlow, we don't have WIP limits, and I'm not sure if Daniel will go into this in this session, but we have something else which is more powerful because it's centered around the constraint, but it is the equivalent of the baby's cry. So it is definitely a pull system. And then we have the psychological part, which is it's omnipresent everywhere in TameFlow.
Yeah, indeed. Just on that though, because it was discussion also on the channel, because a few people observed that there are numbers on this board because it's a flow efficiency board.
But I'm getting
there. Sorry, we're running your flow. Apologies, Daniel.
Okay. So that's great thing about the push and pull. Thank you, Steve. I meant to ask you that very same question. So once we've done this, that we've renamed all the columns. Okay, there was my thing with full kitting, but anyway, so we move everything left. Okay, the doing goes into the end process, and the done goes into the waiting for, and all that, all the way to the end. Okay, this is a simple transformation, and you just shift everything one step to the right. Then you rename the columns. You get rid of the old label, and the before and after transactions conversion is shown here. It's very basic, but there are things that need to be stressed out with the flow efficiency Kanban boards. In the flow efficiency Kanban board, the waiting for and the end process really belong to UAT, and they match on the CFD. And it's 100% under our span of control. But when you go into a traditional Kanban board, the done of development and the doing of UAT basically is your pink area, and no way that the done of development is under the span of control of UAT. So it's the done waiting time of development is basically shipped to the doing of UAT when they don't. UAT doesn't have the span of control over the done time of development. So it's a bit of an oddity. And of course, flow efficiency calculations required 100% control of your metrics, which a traditional Kanban board will not give you. And what is the psychological impact of done and waiting for? Well, people are much more emotionally engaged when they are in a waiting for state. Okay, it's a call to action, and it puts friction within the same team as to, hey, I'm waiting. You want to go in process, and the end process guys say, no, man, I gotta wait. I gotta watch my wait time while I am in process as well. So the done buffer is basically, like, hey, I had a good day and things are done. It's a cost accounting mindset. While the waiting for column is, damn, I need to get my stuff done ASAP so I can take care of the next thing ASAP. So again, there is a cost accounting and throughput accounting dimension to the done buffer and the waiting for column. Training wheels. when the time comes, just do away with the column WIP limits because they are the source of special cause variation signals. They give you improper clues as to things that might go wrong on your Kanban flow. Whoops, I got this wrong. So basically, column WIP limits in terms of common and special cause variation are really, really interesting. It's tempering. Column WIP limits leads you to tempering with the system. And tempering typically happens when we take action with the good intention to improve the system on the detection of special cause variation and mistakenly believe it is common cause variation. It is overreacting to the detection of variation, and it will paradoxically induce even more variation while increasing cost, work and process, and flow time. Tampering is one of the worst anti-pattern, and yet it is extremely common as a consequence of using column WIP limits, buffers, and parking spaces. The TameFlow approach does away with this, and basically, we are not in favor of using column WIP limits. We show you solutions for that in the throughput and the DBR boards, but it's not something we're going to discuss today. Swim lanes, class of service, it's okay. You can basically keep the metrics that you want. There's no problems with that, but making additional artifacts with swim lanes and buffers and all that on your Kanban board and a throughput mindset is not really important because as soon as the ticket will be put into a Kanban, the TameFlow throughput management board, it'll just go as fast as it can be. And there's no need to put extra column or extra swim lanes. So basically, we suggest that we get rid of the column WIP limits when you're ready. And instead, pay attention to the average flow times that are within each functional activity of the workflow. You can see easily that development has the average flow time with 3 days on average for everything that goes into development, and analysis as an average of 2 days and test 1 day. So this is really what you're aiming for when you want to manage special cause and find the constraint and the work process. Finally, this is the last slide. Yes. So the benefits of flow efficiency Kanban boards, they reveal the constraint and the work process as being the step with the highest average flow time, makes wait time explicit to support proper flow efficiency calculations, engages worker emotionally to make decisions in terms of touch time and wait time within each process step, allows the effortless flowbacks. Of course, TameFlow recommends moving downstream to fix the issues. Makes use of work visible and explicit at the entry point of the individual Kanban boards in a complex workflow. Does not contain buffers like traditional Kanban boards where the WIP and wait time can grow and accumulate. Better supports human interaction with processes, with the wait time and process time within each process step. Does without column WIP limits, which are an impediment to flow, and a trigger for special cause variation detection and action that are not needed. Is more in tune with throughput accounting, flow efficiency regarding wait time than traditional Kanban boards, which are more aligned with cost accounting, resource efficiency regarding wait time. And with the traditional down buffer, the reaction is all good. I got more work coming my way. I don't have to appear idle, not doing anything while work is coming. So I am, John, I am done basically.
Thank you so much. And Janela, thank you so much. It's good for someone to hit my reset button every now and again. And I need to go back to my teams tomorrow morning and rip out those WIP limits.
Yeah.
And just look at it because we can see this cycle times, flow times anyway going through the system.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's really good. Thank you for reminding me about that. and for reminding me as well to explore the other boards. We should probably look at subsequent.
Yeah, but the other boards we can do in another time.
Yeah,
but they do with managing touch time at the constraint.
Yeah. So for those watching, if you want an introduction to TameFlow, we had an episode with Steve Tendon on that, and we also had one on OKRs. We had Daniel on more than once talking about TameFlow. It's a really, really deep and broad subject. I believe it's the most advanced Kanban on the planet, and it's really, really good. And you can use it. I'm using it in combination with other things, because what I'm seeing is flawed mental models. And so what I'm doing is I'm not just waiting. I know there's a flawed mental model, so I'm trying to deal with that at the same time as well. There's loads of comments and questions, and I think I'll leave it up to Steve and Daniel to pick which ones they want to address. We can bring them up on screen. Any particular ones you want to address?
I can't see any.
Okay, I'll just bring them all up. That's probably the easiest thing. So yeah, sorry about that. I can see them on the channel, right? But let me just go back. So there were some people disturbed about the full kitting. So I'm just going to go back to that a little bit. So Vlad had a question. Does full kitting not contribute to promoting a silo mindset between engineering and the business? There was a follow-up one as well from Matthew along the same lines. Feels like a gate. And there was another one as well, Vlad as well, following up on that, are a blame shoving mentality between engineering and the business. So they're kind of along the same lines. I don't mind. Steve, do you want to take that? Or
yeah, sure. So there are many aspects in these comments, but since I'm looking a lot at mental models. So what is our perception of the world, and how do we interpret the world, and how does that induce us to make one decision or another? Now, what I detect in these comments is certainly a sensitivity to this very bad thing that are silos, and I agree, they are totally bad. And if you have been active in agile or lean or Kanban, you will certainly try to bring those silos down. So when you see something like full kitting, your mental model will play a trick on you, because you will be induced to recognize what you don't like without knowing what is actually happening during the full kitting activity. It's not building silo. To the contrary, it's a moment where the collaboration between business and engineering is actually facilitated. Now, of course, let's also not forget the scope of action here. If you are a small company with maybe some 10, 20, 30 people, probably you don't have this kind of problem. You're all sitting more or less at arm's length, and you cross paths at the coffee breaks, or when you enter or exit the building. So a lot of interaction happens like organically while you are simply there at work. TameFlow works in those contexts, but it's also designed to work in larger situations. For instance, what do you say about having 8,000 people spread globally in 120 teams and dealing with 70,000 change requests per month? Well, that is another dimension altogether, and I challenge any agile approach to be able to handle that kind of situation. But the point is that the negative effects of silos should be addressed. And the elements that I pointed out before, that you want to create a situation where you have a collective intelligence, where you have collaboration across the board, so to say, between engineering and business, and even other like units that you have in larger organizations, say marketing, support, post-sales, the whole lot. Now, if what you're developing as a product, as an engineering product, affects all these stakeholders, well, they should all be there in the room during the full kitting meeting. So it's something that you will not appreciate unless you see what is actually going on in that meeting, and what is the purpose. The purpose is to decide whether to do or not to do the job. It's not the kind of collaboration that you have in Agile during the job. It's not what happens when you have people swarming around a car to decide what are the problems that are holding us back, the blockers, and what else, and how can we unblock this, the impediments. It's not that kind of decision. This is upfront, so to say. Don't confound this with big upfront planning. That's not the point. It's deciding. It's a decision-making, collective decision-making process where you want to decide whether you want to do something or not. And I think there was also another question related to this. Maybe you can put it up, John, because it's
sure.
consequential. It's the putting dollar amounts on a feature and estimating is garbage in, garbage out. Yes, all estimates are, don't let me say bad words here. They are not good. So estimation should be avoided in all possible ways. In fact, for the engineering part of what we do in TameFlow is exactly what Dan Vacanti is teaching by using flow metrics and basing the when will it be done answer on forecasts rather than expert opinion estimation. But the point is, the business side is not accountable. So you achieve two effects through this requirement or imposing on the business side that they have to provide the estimation. One is that they become aware of their contribution to the problems, especially if you introduce them to these concepts that Daniel illustrated before about postponing commitment and especially about demand shaping. If in these, let's say, speculative estimation of value that finally we engage the business to do, if in that process they decide not to do 50% of what they had in mind, and you know how it works typically, please do this, please do that. We have a client, we have an idea. It's so easy to have ideas, and that's why you have all these exploding backlogs. Well, if 50% of those ideas are discarded before they are even being started, before they are released into the work flow, well, then that is a great gain that is worthwhile, that garbage in, if you wish. But at the same time, don't forget one thing, that as there are sophisticated estimation techniques for the software part, there are also sophisticated ways to value the dollar sign, the business value. Now, of course, this goes into the core of the no estimates arguments. Probably this is not the venue for getting into that. But in any case, if you can get the business to make decisions on what not to do, that is a great advantage.
Yeah, and often what I find is the brief is given to us, but actually the business isn't really clear that they really want it, and they haven't actually thought it through properly. So there's value in just double checking. Are you sure we're ready to do this now? Are you sure? And what actually did you really want, and what do you want to do this? And what's the value you're trying to get out of it? I see great value in that alignment. So I think it's a great idea. There's a few other comments. Rudiger came back as well, saying Taj throughput accounting helps with working with business value calculation. Would you agree with that, Steve and Tanya?
Well, the whole financial flow, TameFlow, maybe we didn't say this at the beginning, so it's worthwhile repeating. TameFlow has that name because we tame 4 flows. One is the operational flow, which is what we've seen on these flow efficiency boards. The other one is the financial flow. The third one is the informational flow, so tightening the feedback loops. And the fourth one is psychological flow. The whole aspect of financial flow is like 90% based on throughput accounting. We are also considering other like financial elements like beyond budgeting and the incremental funding method as part of the tool set that we contemplate in TameFlow. But the core is throughput accounting. So yes, we do use throughput accounting, especially when it comes to the key questions of one that I mentioned before: what should we not do? So, no, what is not worth it? And of the things that remain, the other 50% that we still want to do, which one should we do first? In Agile, you have this idea that you should do the most valuable thing first, and often that is just a judgment call. So it's just as bad as the estimations that we said before. But if we can relate those estimations to bottom line impact, that then the let's say the chief financial officer will actually see materialize in their spreadsheets, well, then that's another story. Then we are closing a huge feedback loop that, for as much as I can tell, for the time being, Agile and Kanban and Safe and all of them are just not there. You go to the financial people and ask them, what do you know about Agile? And probably they will just roll their eyes backwards. Yes, there are some brave people who are starting to talk about Agile accounting and things like that. But let's see which CFO picks that story up.
Thank you.
Yeah, and just for those Agilists who'd like to know more about throughput accounting, we're the only one that offers training on that topic as well. So you can look us up, and we're the only one also that gives training on throughput. Throughput is not only a plug-in variable and Little's law, that's the way. That's the take we have on it. We like to manage throughput.
Thank you. Got a few more comments to get through. So Andrei came in from Ukraine, I believe. So it's actually peer pressure that moves flow faster. He corrected that afterwards.
Friction, positive friction.
Positive friction. Yeah.
It is like that friction, if you wish, but it's also a greater, and here we have this, like, again, the psychological element, greater self-awareness of your, as Daniel said before, your span of control. Exactly the example that Daniel said. Now, when you're done on a traditional Kanban board, you almost want to celebrate. Hey, I'm done. Let's party. But on a flow efficiency board, you say, oh, I have another 5 things to do here. I better get moving. So it gives more visibility to the work in process, not specifically the one that you are touching because you're focusing on that, but the one that is accumulating, that is like expanding the CFD and which is ticking the wait time clock and bringing your flow efficiencies down.
I think we have about 20 or 30 customers in the northeastern part of North America, like New York State, Montreal, Quebec, and Ontario, that have adopted flow efficiency Kanban boards, and they feel a total different sense of awareness as to what the components of flow efficiency are, and they measure and they get better and they get better, and it's really motivating, and they fight for the wait time and the touch time. It's nice. It's really cool.
The one thing I just reminded myself of, I kind of catching myself here, because I'd love to rip out the whip limits in the morning and add full kitting to the front, but I guess the team needs to kind of want to change the board themselves, don't they? How do you deal with that? How do you see the ideas of it?
Well, basically, you just take your. I shown you a traditional Kanban board, and you just convert it within half an hour, and you start from there. And then people get metrics, and they start the constraint, and the work process starts to arise, and they have a better feel as to what they should do. and what you should focus on. It comes naturally. It's not a big thing, eh? It comes
It's a simple conversation, but he needs to decide, don't they, themselves, otherwise I'm just forcing something on them and they probably won't buy into it. I don't know what you think about that. But, a few more comments there. So Wojciech, I think he's from Let's Meet at Baku. So he says flow times to be treated as targets in the TameFlow approach. So I think what Wojciech is arguing is flow time our new target?
No, absolutely not. We don't have like operational metrics as our targets. The target is, as Goldratt said, to make more money today and in the future. You can improve your operations as much as you want, but unless you touch the constraint, you will not increase throughput, operational throughput, and consequently you will not increase financial throughput, which is the real objective of this game. Now, maybe one thing to clarify, because in this explanation it might seem that reducing the flow time is the target. We have one example in the book where actually increasing flow time will increase your throughput. Now, this is mind-boggling. It's the opposite of what you learn in Scrum and Kanban. How can that be? Well, that's a secret that Daniel will show you in the next episode. But it just goes to show how much disconcerting the constraints management part can be, because you're going literally against what the whole industry is teaching and preaching. So yeah, there are many aspects that you will appreciate in TameFlow as you learn more of its different facets and how all these elements like sustain one another. But definitely flow times are not expressed as targets. Though Daniel, I mean, you were highlighting something before, which is really important. You said you must care about the flow times before you can go any further.
I said you gotta get.
Why is that? Why is that? I want to explain this because it's not self evident. The whole operational flow of TameFlow is there to answer one question: where is the constraint when the constraint is in the operational flow? Because, open parenthesis, the constraint can be in many other places. You could have policy constraints, you could have market constraints, you could have mental model constraints, so it can be in many other places. Close parenthesis. So when the constraint is in the operational flow, how do we find it? Daniel said that you should look in three places: the workflow, the work process, and the work execution. There are different techniques to identify the constraint, but in particular, in the work process, which is what you're showing on the Kanban board or on the TameFlow board, the way we do it, and Daniel hinted at this, is to look at the average in state, so column flow times. And you know very well from the lessons of Dan Vacanti that if you want predictability, you must have stability. And in order to have stability, those two lines must be parallel. So you must limit work in process. With that stability, we are able to measure in a reliable way the average flow times within every column, and thereby pinpoint the column that has the longest average flow time. And that is the constraint, and that is in the next episodes where you will focus the improvement on the touch time rather than compressing the wait time. So in this sense, caring about process stability and looking at the flow times is extremely, extremely important. But flow times are not a target in and by itself. You will understand where to intervene once you have the hang of the constraint. But in order to get there, you must have measure the flow time, so you know where the longest average is, and you must have those two lines that are parallel. So you must limit work in process, not through WIP limits, but through another mechanism, which is the drum buffer rope mechanism.
Thank you so much. Looking forward to talking about those more advanced approaches as well. Thank you so much, Steve. So Wojciech is happy with your answer. Thank you, Wojciech. And Nader, I know Nader very well. He's mentored me, taught me so many things. And
yeah, I met Nader years ago. Hi, Nader.
I only met Nader in 2015, and wow, I've learned so much since then. He's brilliant. Thank you, Nader, for that. Rudiger, yeah, column WIP limits or history, sure looks like it.
Absolutely.
Yes. So Jersey's coming back. So what Daniel presented was just an easy case of one board and one team. Which TameFlow boards and how would be applied when we have 4 teams working together on one project? I thought Daniel, you showed an example where there was a
I showed a complex workflow, but probably that what Jersey is referring to is that when you have multi teams and this and that, you have got to go into constraint management and find out which team is the constraint in the workflow, which team is the constraint in the work execution. Then these 2 teams must use a DBR Kanban board, and the other teams use flow efficiency Kanban boards. Anyway, so that's something that, you know, we can have another crack at it when I could introduce the throughput management board of TameFlow.
Thank you, John, for showing the pointer to the book there, because that is really the mission of this book is to help organization to manage what I call the pest environments, where you have multiple projects or products, depending on how you want to interpret the P, but you have multiple of them, you have multiple stakeholders, you have multiple events or deadlines, and you have multiple teams. So maybe I didn't say them in the right order, but PEST, that's the pest environment. And the example I told you before is a real world example, 8,000 people, 120 teams, 70,000 change requests per month. They tried everything from Scrum to Scrum at Scale to Kanban to Lean by McKinsey nonetheless. And at the end, it was theory of constraints and TameFlow that cracked the nut or found the constraint in that mess.
Thank you so much. Lots more comments coming in. Wasim came back thanking Rudiger. Yes, thank you, Rudiger. Looking forward, Daniel offered to do a talk on throughput accounting, and I'm going to take him up on that. And by the way, before I forget, next week, Daniel has agreed to come back to talk about exceptional management and management by exception. Kind of
which is unique to Agile. The TameFlow goes where no one has gone before. Management by exception is something that saves enormous amount of times to managers, and also gives them advance warning of risk materialization. And we're going to see a lot of interesting that have never been unveiled in the world of Agile.
Yeah, looking forward to it. Thank you so much, Daniel, for being so active.
And then another time I'll do throughput accounting if you.
Yeah, so I definitely want you back to that too. Thank you. So Vlad says thank you, Steve. That does clarify what he's looking for. Wojciech also said thank you. Wasim has a question. In TameFlow, how much emphasis is on ensuring the size of the work items flowing through the same size by the dollar for every time I was asked that question? In TameFlow, yeah. Go ahead.
So yes, I mean this is a contentious argument that comes up again and again when well, you don't need to talk about TameFlow, but you know, just Kanban. It's the size of the work items is totally irrelevant, and there are at least two reasons for this. One, remember that you have flow efficiencies that are probably in the single digits. So let's say the 5% in the example of Daniel. That 5% captures all your work items, whether small or big. So being concerned about the size of the work item is like being concerned of that 5% that is nothing compared to the 95% when that work item, no matter how big or small, is sitting there waiting. So from that point of view, you're focusing on the wrong thing. You're not focusing where the low-hanging fruit are, where you could gain throughput without investment and changes, as Daniel said. The other point is, because we are collecting flow metrics, so our primary concern is to not overload the system. We will be able to represent the aggregate of all the items with a flow distribution chart, and there, small or big items are just represented by the spread of the curve. So they are all there, and that curve represents like the shape and form of your work. If you have many big items, the whole curve will right shift on your diagram. If you have a large mixture of small and large items, the whole curve will be much longer. But in any case, that curve represents your reality. So if you're using that curve to do the forecast, those forecasts will be much more reliable than any sort of estimation. And any effort that you spend on like sizing or right sizing these items, I think is basically wasted. You have all the information in the numbers, even if you might not see it, but statistically that information is there. I can understand that if you are coming like from an agile setting where you either do like Fibonacci story pointing or reference class, T-shirt sizing or boats or whatever that the latest game is, where you just put work items in buckets according to the perceived size, you might have this preoccupation. Where are we not losing information by putting everything in one huge bucket? Yes, you would be losing unless you have metrics. That's why we are so maniacal about collecting metrics in TameFlow, and especially then using the metrics as Dan Vacanti has taught in his excellent books.
And I just want to talk about your own excellent book. So there is an offer. TameFlow Workflow, it really is fantastic. I put a review in myself saying it was like, it's in the top 10 reads. Like, if you're into this kind of knowledge work stuff, trying to make things better, maybe try to solve pain for people, you have to check it out. I read the book. I read it a few times. Had a few episodes with Steve and with Daniel. I'm still learning.
I wrote it a few times.
And it's
many
really
chapters had to be rewritten.
Imagine, yeah. And so what I'd say is it really is worth looking into this, and also check out what they call the Herbie camps. What do you call these campfires? Sorry,
campfires. Yes, John, you have to be my guest sometime there now, because I'm always here at your home.
Yeah, I have to talk about that. I'll figure something out. So also there's training available. So like I think we just opened another door. So it's a massive room. TameFlow is a massive room. It's like a warehouse. So sorry, you're going to be frustrated, but yeah, you're going to have to read lots more books now and more videos. So back to the comments. So Marcello, I hope I pronounced your name properly, Marcello. I think I've seen you in the LESS community. I love your logo there, really cool. So Lean by McKinsey, isn't that a contradiction? Yeah, probably.
Well, yes, that's what you might conclude. But McKinsey is one of the huge consultancy that are actually pushing Lean initiatives into large corporations. And as anything McKinsey, it's their own, like, how can I say, flavor. So there might be things that are not exactly what you would expect from a Lean perspective, but they are in big places. And TameFlow has had the pleasure to cross paths with McKinsey in more than one case, and I've no, I've always come out very well from those situations.
Yeah, John Seddon loves it. He makes a fortune out of it. He just cleans up after them, apparently. So
I think John Seddon has lots of very insightful experience, and he's able to verbalize that in ways that you don't forget.
Exactly, that's a very good way of putting it. Right, John was on an episode as well. Fantastic. Very nice talk, Daniel. Thank you, Marcello, and thanks for stopping by, Steve. And from Andrew, thanks, Daniel, John, and Steve, for inspiring session. You motivate me to move further. This man, Andrew, he got loads of badges. He didn't waste his furlough time. He really upskilled. Really proud of how he's learned so much in the last few months. So keep it up, Andrew. Thank you for joining again. Wasim says thank you. And Anna, TameFlow like a word, more like a fortress. Ooh, sorry, Anna. I slap in the face received.
But John, we had we're talking about the campfire talks, and just last week we had Sandeep Joshi, who's, by the way, who's the author of the Manifesto for Sustainable Agile. If you haven't seen it, take a look, because it's quite interesting. And he came up with the most gracious definition of TameFlow that I will inscribe on the walls behind me sometime, because he said TameFlow is simple and beautiful, and that's it.
Yeah, it is actually.
I see that you're not in agreement, but yes, maybe let me do this reflection. There is lots and lots behind TameFlow, so you can dig quite a lot. But at the end, we summarize it with just the three stories, the three metaphors. Herbie, which the jungle, the jeep, and the journey, and the patient in the hospital. Those three stories, if you just reinterpret them according to the situation, your context, will give you all of TameFlow. That's it. So it's really, really simple. In a nutshell, remember three stories, and if you have a problem, think, which story is helping me to interpret reality. That's it. Simple and beautiful.
Yeah, the essence is very simple. There's a lot to TameFlow, but it's the essence. Thank you for that. I love the description. You should describe that on the wall. Read TameFlow on your lower Callow, like when you explained to the Pope of the Sun was the center of the solar system.
So I hope you will not send me to some place and burn now.
Thank you, Daniel and Steve. Thank you, Daniel and Steve. Indeed. My attention to a piece of love. I know, and I'm just having a bit of fun. And Jersey, thanks a lot, Daniel and Steve and John.
Welcome, Jersey.
And thank you, everyone. A very active audience this evening. Thank you all so much. Can't wait to have Daniel back next week, same time next week. Exceptional management and management by exception. Can't wait to find out what that's all about. And we will figure that out, of course, before we post it. And we're going to also talk about throughput accounting. And where, Steve, can people find out about your campfires? Is there a URL to go to tameflow.com or?
Well, the easiest way is to go to tameflow.com, and there is one option at the top which is like the campfire. So there you will have the link where you can get more information.
Thank you. So just reminding people about the book as well. So it's a really good offer. The book is quite expensive, but it's very valuable. So it's good value. But if you want to get a lower price, you got 24 hours. So lots of thought leaders there. I think it was a great book. So check it out. Use that link, please. I just put that. I just flash that link back up. Actually, sorry. So that's the training link. I need to flash up the book link, right? So. There you go, tameflow.com/special offer. And I assume if you go to tameflow.com, you'll also see the links to the campfires as well. And I've been very impressed how active Steve has been and the quality of the guests that he's had as well. So keen to learn more from Steve about how he does this. Learn a few tips and tricks off Steve.
John, we might want to mention that for anyone who wants to engage with TameFlow, we have a community as well. It's community.tameflow.com, where we have some quite deep and engaging discussions. So if the audience here has any questions about TameFlow, well, of course they can reach out to me and Daniel directly. But if they want to have a broader conversation with other TameFlow practitioners, enthusiasts, or even skeptics, because some are there just to ask questions, then the community is the place.
So the offer for the book, it's only valid for 24 hours, is that right?
Yeah, well, 48, I think, 2 days, I think it was. Yeah.
48 hours, seems. So thank you for that. Okay, so you know where the book is, you know where the training is, you know Steve now and Daniel, and hopefully you'll hear more from them. Thank you very much, Daniel and Steve, for joining this evening. Really enjoyed it myself.
Thank you, John, for inviting me.
Reset again. Thank you for that. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, John. Thank you big time.
Bye.